OK, so we are in the midst of a Conservative Party beauty pageant. Politicians who've spent 2 years swerving difficult sofa interviews are lining up to tell you why they should be the leader of the country in 6 weeks' time. They're producing sales pitches, slow-motion videos with moving music beds, telling you why your future is safe in their hands. But I don't know about you, but I am finding these marketing campaigns infuriating. They talk glibly of a cost of living crisis, as though this has nothing to do with the unproven COVID scientific guesswork that they and the media passed off as fact, thereby nudging the country into a depression that we've never seen before. Ordinary people feel abandoned right now by our current political system. Many of us have nowhere to turn, and too many households are already at breaking point. It's almost like being in a cold war with your own government. The key protagonists, Sunak, Javid, Johnson, Hancock, Zahawi, you know the names, they will ride off into the sunset at some point to cash in the quid pro quo favours generated under the cloak of a global pandemic. So I have a few questions I'd like to ask them. The beauty of the last 2 years is that it allows us to see exactly who these wannabe top dogs are, where they stand on individual freedoms, the importance of our children and their education, mental versus physical health, and whether they believe that either truly matters, the extent to which they think the state should be allowed to meddle in the minutiae of our lives. I met some new mums this weekend, and when they were describing how the government hadn't let the grandparents meet their babies for 6 months, we all kind of shook our heads at how we ever thought that rule was acceptable. Some of us didn't. So every single interviewer needs to ask, will these politicians ensure no more lockdowns and restrictions this winter? Will they protect our sovereignty over health policy and not be influenced by the World Health Organization pandemic treaty, which would hand domestic control over to globalists that you haven't elected? Will they protect our rights to free speech, either by scrapping or amending the online harm safety bill, so that when, not if, another pandemic emerges, we will be able to discuss it openly and without censure on social platforms? Many candidates voted for COVID passports. Did they do so? I want to know, because they like the idea of a papers, please society, or because they didn't want to vote against the government. Now is the time to come clean. Most people feel overwhelmed at the moment. They're afraid of losing what they've built up in their own bank accounts. They're afraid of losing businesses. Even the prospect of a well-deserved holiday is being made increasingly difficult. Nursing homes are desperately short-staffed. Bed sores and malnutrition should not be apparent in a first world country. 20,000 carers at least were forced out of their jobs thanks to an unscientific drug mandate brought in by a man who isn't even in the job anymore. These much-needed workers have been completely forgotten and not even offered their jobs back. We lost 15,000 beds, remember, under Jeremy Hunt's time at the NHS, and we lost another 5,000 during lockdown. In the face of a growing population, what are the hopes of getting those beds back? That's what I want to know. It's now easier for a cross-channel migrant to see a doctor or a dentist than it is for people living in this country for decades. We need a leader who is willing to seize all the opportunities that Brexit gave us, not just try and keep us closely aligned to a failed Ponzi scheme called the EU. And for over a decade, the Tory party's greatest asset has been to remind us that not voting for them risks a Labour who would be worse. It's time to bring the party back to conservative values, with a leader who sees the potential of looking after their own people first. Nelson Mandela worked for his own people. He never intended to be iconic. The accolades quite rightly came because the world recognised his success in his own country. Great leaders aren't looking to be great. They usually just want to get the job done. And they don't need slick TikTok videos. They need values.